We've got here from NBC News, full interview. Donald Trump details plans for day one beyond for the White House. This is going to be fun.
President-elect Donald Trump, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here. You are the first president.
Dude, she sounds like she's like so mad, but like she's like, I hate this guy, but I have to pretend like I like him. She's like, hold on,
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here.
You are the first.
She's like, dude, it's like she's seething. She sounds like she's seething.
Thank you so much.
You can feel it.
For being here. You are the first president since
she wants to strangle him, dude.
To win non-consecutive terms. Republicans now have control of the House and the Senate. What do you plan to accomplish in your first 100?
Well, we're going to do something with the border, and very strong, very powerful. That'll be our first signal. I
love like how he's like the way he says stuff, like just the adjectives that he uses. He's like, you're going to do something with the border. Very strong, very powerful.
To America that we're not playing games. We have people coming in by the millions, as you know, and a lot of people shouldn't be here. Most of them shouldn't be here, but we have jails being emptied into our country. We have mental institutions from all over the world being emptied.
You know, I actually don't know like how true that is. Is that like true?
Into our country. So we'll be doing that. We're going to be extending within that period, or as soon as we can, the Trump tax cuts, because you know they're coming due and they're very substantial for people, and it would be very, I think it will anger a lot of people, frankly, if we don't get an extension of that. That's what led us to one of the greatest economies ever. And those two things are going to be very vital, very important. We're going to be focusing on crime in the cities, and we'll work with them.
The crime in the cities is fucking crazy right now. It's crazy. It's not only just the cities now, it's kind of spreading out into like the suburbs and like even like the edge of the suburbs. It's like kind of really spreading out. It's like I said, like I recently just visited California, and I lived kind of like on the edge of the countryside. Even places like I used to just like kind of go by myself. Like I take the bus and like kind of go with my friends, and like we go like to wherever the fuck that we want, like as kids. Now they're like, yeah, like someone got shot there. Yeah, you don't want to be there at this time. Like, wait, what? I used to hang out there all the time, like by myself as a kid. And it's like, yeah, you don't want to go there anymore. It's like that kind of shit. And then in San Francisco, again, like people just getting broken into. Like if I don't think people that aren't from like those places, I don't think you understand just how bad this situation is. In stores, frozen food is locked up in like the major cities. If you want like a frozen pizza, you have to like ask somebody to like unlock it. And then there's like a big chain across the whole thing.
Democrat governors, most of them are, as you know, if you look at the 25 worst places, they're just about all Democrat-controlled cities and states. And we're going to be working with Democrat governors and Democrat mayors. And I look forward to doing it. But we have to do something about crime, and mostly in our cities. And we're going to have a lot of other things. We'll be working on nominations. We're going to still be working.
Evian, thank you so much.
And we're going to have a lot of other things. We'll be on nominations. We're going to still be working on some nominations. I think they're going very well. We have, for the most part, I think they're going extremely well. It looks like Peter's doing well now. I mean, people were a little bit concerned. He's a young guy with a tremendous track record, actually. He went to Princeton and went to Harvard. He was a good student at both, but he loves the military, and I think people are starting to see it. So we'll be working on his nomination along with a lot of others.
We are going to delve into your nominations, but since you bring him up, do you still have confidence in Pete Hegseth?
Yes, I do. I really do. He's a very smart guy. I've known him through Fox, but I've known him for a long time.
Bro's the adjective minister.
Every time I talk to him, all he wants to talk about is the military. He's a military guy. I used to kid him about it. I didn't think would be in this position where he may be, hopefully will be Secretary of Defense. But every time I was with him, he was fighting for soldiers, where he said some soldier was unjustly put in prison because they were really doing what they were taught to do in some cases. So, yeah, I think he's going to do fine.
The fact that there are these allegations against him, misconduct, sexual misconduct, heavy drinking, the fact that he said to some senators reportedly he'll stop drinking if he gets this job, does that worry you?
No, I think that everybody has something that they can stop. Some people can stop eating. I'm lucky I'm not a drinker.
Okay, that was kind of funny, though. Some people can stop eating.
Look at trending crime rates. It's much lower now than it was then. I've never had my car broken into, but when I was younger my parents had their car broken into twice.
What city? Again, my experience is mostly California. It's possible that it's not the same for every city, I think. The other thing too is a lot of crime got decriminalized. For instance, in San Francisco specifically, you can steal up to $999. As long as it's under $1,000, you can steal and not get in trouble. Is it $950? Thank you, Lone Wolf. It's around $1,000. That you can steal up to a certain amount and then you can't get arrested for it. It's not get in trouble. It's not a felony. Shoplifting is still a misdemeanor, is it? The fact is though, is that if they don't enforce like the law, then crime would go down, wouldn't it? Like according to like the statistics that they use. Because then if you say you have something that's a crime and you ignore it and then it doesn't get added to those statistics. Yeah. Why arrest when the DA won't press charges? Yeah, exactly.
But I could stop eating, and we all want to stop doing something. And if he said that, I mean...
Julio says crime statistics are probably based on reports. We just saw that the store said that they were mugged 20 times per day. And they probably don't report all 20. Yeah. True. Another thing, true. That is true.
It's a nice...
Because why report it if you report it and then nothing happens, right? Like you report it and then they basically say, there's nothing we can do about it. Then at some point, like you just stop reporting it, right?
To say that's a good thing to say, but he's
but that's crazy. Think about it. Like this store gets robbed 20 times per day. That's fucking crazy.
Very respected.
How do you even make money?
A lot of the people at Fox, they think he's fantastic, and the people that work with him.
No store gets that. They literally just said that in the news report. Unless you're saying that the news report is lying.
So I think you're going to have somebody that's really terrific. And again, all he talked about with me, I said, you're not really a television guy, even though he did very well, as you know. You're really a military guy. He said, I'm all about the military. And I told him, so he's making a lot of money at Fox. They're doing very well. I said, if for some reason you don't get this thing, you're not going to be able to go back. And all that money you're making, you can kiss it goodbye. That's a very big, risky thing he's doing. When he goes and he says, I'm going to give up, millions of dollars in order to possibly become the Secretary of Defense. A lot of people would say it's a great position. There's probably almost no greater position, but a lot of people would say, I have to think about it. He said, I don't have to think about it.
All right, we're going to delve into your cabinet picks a little bit later, but I want to delve into one of your signature promises on the campaign trail, which was to end inflation, to lower prices. You are now proposing tariffs against the United States' three biggest trading partners. Economists of all stripes say that ultimately consumers pay the price of tariffs.
I don't believe
Can you guarantee American families won't pay more?
I can't guarantee anything. I can't guarantee tomorrow.
Like in general, it's probably bad to do tariffs. It depends how they do it. Because before they used tariffs, right? Like we saw that other video about the economy and how before they had tariffs, before they had income taxes, right? So it kind of depends how they do it. There's probably some combination in which it's okay. But in general, like if you were to say, like, let's just keep everything the same and then increase tariffs, then yes, of course it would increase prices.
But I can say that if you look at just pre-COVID, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country. And I had a lot of tariffs on a lot of different countries, but in particular China, we took in hundreds of billions of dollars and we had no inflation. In fact, when I handed it over, they didn't have inflation for a year and a half. They went almost 2 years just based on what I had created. And then they created inflation with energy and with spending too much. So I think we will. I'm a big believer in tariffs. I think tariffs are the most beautiful word. I think they're beautiful.
The most beautiful word, tariff? Come on, Trump. Come on, man.
Make us rich. We're subsidizing Canada to the tune of over $100 billion a year. We're subsidizing Mexico for... Why are we subsidizing these countries? If we're going to subsidize them, let them become a state. We're subsidizing Mexico, and we're subsidizing Canada, and we're subsidizing many countries all over the world. And all I want to do is I want to have a level, fast, but fair playing field.
Sir, your previous tariffs during your first administration cost Americans some $80 billion. And now you have major companies from Walmart, Black & Decker, AutoZone saying that any tariffs are going to force them to drive up prices. How do you make sure that these CEOs, that these companies don't, in fact, pass on the cost of tariffs to their consumers?
They cost Americans nothing. They made a great economy for us. They also solve another problem. If we were going to have problems having to do with wars and having to do with other things, tariffs, I have stopped wars with tariffs by saying, you guys want to fight, it's great, but both of you are going to pay tariffs.
So like, if they do enact tariffs, like say like we keep everything the same, but then they add tariffs, unless the again, I'm assuming like a pure neutral situation where we don't change anything else. It's just like how it is now. They add tariffs, and then the tariffs aren't used to negotiate something. Like it's just they just added the tariffs, but everything else is status quo. It's of course going to increase the prices for consumers. It depends like how he implements it, right? Because if the addition of the tariff comes with like some kind of negotiation, or it comes with lowering like income taxes or something like that, then like you could make an argument that it won't increase it. It depends.
Tariffs to the United States at 100%. They have many purposes, tariffs, if properly used. I don't say you use them like a madman. I say properly used. But it didn't cost this country anything. It made this country money, and we never really got the chance to go all out because we had to fight COVID in the last part, and we did it very successfully. And when I handed it over to Biden, the stock market was higher than what it was just previous to COVID coming in. It was actually higher. Tariffs are properly used, are a very powerful tool, not only economically, but also for getting other things outside of economics.
Well, again, prices did go up on some goods in your first administration, washing machines, tires. Will you punish CEOs?
Let me just explain to you. Yeah. You mentioned washing machines. So you look at Whirlpool in Ohio. I got a call from...
Sorry. Honestly, I don't think this is a CEO's problem. Because here's the thing, like, say you own a business, right? This is such a dumb idea. It's like if you're a CEO, okay, and then your costs go up, right? Say let's just like use me for an example, right? Say I have to buy standees, right? Like say like you want to buy like Leaflit, the new Leaflit standee, right? And I wanted to buy them from China because it's cheaper, right? It's cheaper to produce them from China. And then all of a sudden it becomes more expensive to produce them in China. Obviously I'd have to increase the price of it. Does that make sense? Otherwise I'm not making any money. The idea that it's the business's responsibility to just take the hit on the chin is freaking ridiculous.
Jim Jordan, one of the greats, congressman from Ohio, and he said they're going out of business because South Korea and China are dumping washing machines into our country.
Peton says it's only cheaper to produce them in China because you made them expensive to produce in the US. That's true, Peton. But so what happens if we cut that off? What happens if now the material cost of like the item that you're selling increases? Who pays for that? Obviously, like I have to increase the price of it, which makes it so the consumers pay more. Do you see what I mean? Or you would look for another source. Yeah, sure, you could look for another source as well. But if you take the cheapest source off the table, then the price is going to go up at least temporarily. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of how business works. Like this person has never created a business or created anything in their life, basically, that they had to sell to other people. This is like the typical point of view of a person that basically works for a wage and doesn't understand like economics in any sort of like way.
Country. And I put a 50% tariff on the washing machines coming in from China and South Korea, and Whirlpool and the companies...
I'm talking about the woman, by the way.
That made washing machines, which are based in Ohio, largely based in Ohio, through the roof. We saved thousands of jobs, tens of thousands of jobs. They were all going out of business.
Because the reporter was saying that, like, how are you going to punish, like, CEOs for this?
Because they were dumping washing machines.
For passing off prices to consumers.
And when I put the tariffs on, they became successful businesses. No, it didn't, not only didn't it cost people, it made our...
Chaos Dragon says it could still be a problem if the cost of manufacture goes back down, but the price remains the same. That becomes an issue of competition, because then if you can sell it for cheaper and you can undercut like everyone else and make a profit. The problem is when these companies collude. So that should be illegal. Like them colluding in order to like artificially inflate prices. I think that's already illegal. I don't know. I might be wrong. But if it's not illegal, it should be illegal.
a country stronger and more powerful, and it kept jobs.
But how do you make sure?
It's called a cartel.
that
Yeah.
consumers
That's the word for it. Cartel. Exactly.
don't wind up paying more? Will you punish CEOs who try to pass the cost of tariffs on to their customers?
Well, the market's going to take care of it. I mean, actually, the market takes care of it. And if it doesn't, we adjust it somewhat. In the case of Whirlpool, or let's say companies that made washing machines, they were all being put out of business by the dumping from, in particular, South Korea and China. And when I put the tariffs on, very substantial tariffs, although peanuts compared to what people do to us, what countries do to us, it became a very, very powerful, successful company. Now, let's say I didn't do the tariffs. It would have gone out of business. You would have lost tens of thousands of jobs, and you don't include
Dude,
that.
I was like looking at that South Korean like thing about Samsung. Dude, they seem so fucking like corrupt. That shit's crazy. It's like looking into that whole thing.
In your equation. No, they make a lot of money. I'll go a step further. Tariffs are going to make our country rich. Tariffs are going to help us pay off $35 trillion in debt. Tariffs are going to make our country safe because China, as an example, doesn't want to play games with us if we're going to do tariffs on them. They don't want to play games. And we have a lot of games being played on us right now.
Well, I think, and that takes me to my next question.
Yeah.
Are you actually going to impose these tariffs, or are they a negotiating tactic?
Well, I'll give you an example with Canada. And
Dude, why did dude? Dude, she's like the way she moves. She's like an animatronic. Am I the only one that sees this?
That takes me to my next question.
Yeah.
Are you actually going to impose these tariffs, or are they a negotiating tactic?
Well, I'll give you an example. With Canada, and in particular Mexico, we have millions of people pouring into our country. You agree with that? I spoke with I spoke with Justin Trudeau. In fact,
Yeah, that's what it looks like. It says MFN. It looks like she's like forcing herself through it. Like she doesn't want to be here, and she doesn't even want to have this conversation. You can like feel the animosity like through the screen.
Mar-a-Lago within,
You know what I mean?
About 15 seconds after the call ended. Yeah. It was at Mar-a-Lago. We were having dinner talking about it. I said, you have to close up your borders because they're coming in the northern border too a lot. Not like the southern border, but they're coming in the Canadian border a lot.
God damn it,
drugs are pouring in. Almost
Holy
as
fuck.
importantly, drugs are pouring in. Maybe more importantly, drugs are pouring in at levels never seen before. 10 times what we had. They're just pouring in. We can't have
Lady
open
is
borders.
using every fiber
and I said
of her
to
body to stop
President
from
of
committing
Mexico
a
and to
homicide.
Justin Trudeau, if it doesn't stop,
Thanks for the bits, Yoshi. Thank you.
I'm going to put tariffs on your country at about 25%. That's a very substantial tariff. In both cases, but in the case where it was really visible, within 10 minutes after that phone call, we noticed that the people coming across the border, the southern border, having to do with Mexico, they were at a trickle, just a trickle. It was, in fact, I call the border. See, unlike my opponent, I do call the border a lot. And I said, how's the border looking today? They said, there's nobody here. They couldn't believe it. The military stopped vast groups of people. You know, we call them caravans, but they had caravans of people, and they largely stopped them. Now, they're going to have to continue that, but if they don't continue, and the other thing I told them is no more drugs, and I told that to China, too. I had to deal with President Xi. Had the election been different, I'm going to be very nice because we don't have to get into an argument over 2020, but had the election been different, the result been different,
I feel like she's gonna press him on 2020 anyway. She's gonna bring it up.
we would have had
What do you
China
guys think? What do you guys think are the odds? What do you think are the odds that she's gonna bring it up?
giving the maximum penalty, which is the penalty of death, to people that sent fentanyl.
I think it's like 99%.
Into this country, but Biden didn't, unfortunately, finish that discussion up. I had an agreement with President Xi, who I got along with very well. We've had communication as recently as this week, and I had communication with him where they were going to give the death penalty to anybody sending drugs into the United States.
This week you had that conversation.
Not that conversation, but I had other conversations. Okay. But in the past, I've had that conversation.
Let me ask you about another aspect of the economy, sir, the minimum wage. The federal minimum wage has been $7.25 since 2009. There are 20 states that still have the federal minimum wage at $7.25. And I actually have a map. 19 of these states actually voted for you, sir. And you can see it right here. I don't know if you remember this, but during the debate in 2020, I asked you if you would raise the minimum wage. You said you would consider it. And so my question for you is, now now that you are going back to the White House?
I think that minimum wage should be a state issue. I don't think it should be federal, because every state is like so different, and like the economies of each state are like completely different. And that if you impose like something like national, it doesn't make any sense, because it doesn't take into account like the local financial situations.
For these 19 states that voted for you, are you going to raise the federal
It's a very low
minimum wage?
number. I will agree. It's a very low number. Let me give you the
Minimum wage hurts small business, doesn't it? Yes. So here's the thing is, minimum wage is basically forces people to pay a certain amount, even if that's not what it's worth to you. Does that make sense? And so what happens is you end up either not hiring people for those positions or automating, because it's not worth it to pay them that amount. But you would hire somebody if you could for lower than that amount. It's removed from supply and demand. Does that make sense? The goal should make it so that things cost less to live. Well, the thing is when you increase minimum wage, and like say you have like a mom and pop shop, and like you increase minimum wage to prices so that you can afford like the increase in wages, or you fire people and then you leave it to one person to do like two people's amount of work, or you automate. Those are really all you can do.
The downside, though,
Yeah.
in California, they raised it up to a very high number, and your restaurants are going out of business all over the place. The population is shrinking. It's had a very negative impact. But there is a level at which you could do it, absolutely. Yeah.
What is that level? Do you
I don't know. I mean, I really don't know.
Yeah, what Gwendolyn says. Yeah, and it causes prices to go up. It's as if you didn't raise the wage. Yeah, basically inflates everything, right? Because the price of goods becomes more expensive. Like, say like a place that you eat, like a McDonald's or whatever. You add like a minimum wage, they're gonna have to increase the prices of like everything at the restaurant in order to like match like the new amount that they have to pay for. It increases the cost of how much it costs to produce the food, which makes it so that now the consumer has to pay more. So then the people like that work at the McDonald's, now when they go out to spend the money that they got from the increased wage, now their money is worth less. So it's like we're back in the same position. Does that make sense? Because now you have to pay more for everything, because the minimum wage increased the cost of everything else, which now means that you just have to pay more anyway. So it's effectively as if you didn't have your wages increased.
I can say this. You have a lot of businesses that are open and thriving because of the lower minimum wage. If you raise it too much, and you understand this, if California went crazy, they went crazy. And the restaurants are closing all over. Many more people are hurt.
So I hear you saying, similarly to sort of what you said in 2020, will you consider, is this something you're going to look at?
I'd want to speak to the governors. And the other thing that's very complicated about minimum wages is places are so different. Mississippi and Alabama and great places are very different than New York or California. I mean, in terms of the cost of living and other things.
Exactly. This is
So
what I was.
it would be nice to have just a minimum wage for the whole country, but it wouldn't.
This is what I was saying earlier, is that each place is different. Like, for instance, like stuff is a lot cheaper, like in Texas compared to like a place like California. It depends on like what resources like an area has. So like, for instance, I'll just use like Texas for an example. Texas has a lot of like energy production, so then energy is cheaper, right? So it just depends on like what area that you live in, and like the logistical cost of like living in the area will change how much that would have to be. So making it like a federal flat minimum wage doesn't make any sense, because everyone's every community, every state has different requirements for stuff.
Because you have places where it's very inexpensive to live, where a minimum wage, which is $8 or $9, might have very little effect. The cost of living in certain places is really low.
Before we move on to immigration, which I do want to talk about, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, said he will not leave his post even if you ask him to. Will you try to replace Jerome Powell?
No, I don't think so. I don't see it. But I think if I told him to, he would. But if I asked him to, he probably wouldn't. But if I told him to, he would.
You don't have plans to do that right now?
No, I don't.
Let's talk about mass deportation, one of your big agenda items. You've talked about prioritizing people who have criminal histories.
Correct.
But is it your plan to deport everyone who is here illegally over the next 4 years?
Well, I think you have to do it.
Yeah, because they're here illegally. I don't understand how this is so spicy. I don't know why everyone is freaking out about this one. It just makes sense to me. Like, it makes sense to me. You come here illegally, which is a criminal act, and you're like, oh, I should just be allowed to stay. That doesn't make any fucking sense to me. That doesn't make sense to it's not fair. It's not fair to citizens, and it's also not fair to immigrants that went here legally. People that are falling in line and actually doing things the proper way. It's basically a big fuck you to all those people, because it's like, that's what you get, suckers. That's what you get for like not going illegally. Shouldn't have waited in line. Shouldn't have waited in line and like tried to get your finances in order so that you can move. Fuck you. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make any fucking sense. This is so rude to people that want to immigrate legally. This is the biggest fuck you, because like, what, you're just gonna give blanket amnesty to people? Like, well, what's there's only two things: either you deport them or you give them amnesty. What the fuck is there else in the middle? It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why this is like such a hot button issue. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's a very tough thing to do. It's, but you have to have, you have rules, regulations, laws. They came in illegally. The people that have been treated very unfairly are the people that have been
illegally. You shouldn't fucking be here. How does this not make sense to people?
Yeah, 100% agree. Thank you for the bits, Yoshi. Thank you. Yeah, 100% agree. It's not that I don't like immigration. I'm actually okay with immigration. Like, I like immigration. Obviously, like, my family came here, right? So it's like, obviously I'm for immigration, but like, it needs to be done through proper channels. You can't just fucking sneak your way in and then expect like, oh, well, I'm here now. Well, what are you gonna do about it? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Online for 10 years to come into the country, and we're going to make it very easy for people to come in terms of they have to pass the test. They have to be able to tell you what the Statue of Liberty is. They have to tell you a little bit about our country. They have to love our country. They can't come out of prisons.
I think ideally, like, you like literally deport everybody that went in illegal. You deport all of them, and then afterwards, when that's over, then we can consider increasing resources for like legal immigration and making it so that like, people that like have actual like legitimate claims to asylum, people that have gone through the proper process, people that just want to immigrate here because they believe in America. Like, as long as like we maintain those things where like they're willing to like assimilate into the culture of America and become Americans, we should make that easier to do. I think just no bullshit,
Murderers released into our country over the last 3 years. They're walking down the streets. They're walking next to you and your family, and they're very dangerous.
The 13,000 figure, I think, goes back about 40 years.
No, it doesn't. No, it's within the 3-year period. It's during the Biden term. No, that was a fiction that they put that out. This was done by the Border Patrol. It's 13,099, and it's during the Biden period of time. And these are murderers, many of whom murdered more than one person. You don't want those people in this country.
But you're saying something, sir, that's significant. I just want to make sure I'm clear.
I am for strong immigration reform. It's so difficult to immigrate here legally for so many people that it becomes near impossible, leaving illegal immigration the most viable option.
It is hard it is definitely, depending on like what country you're from. I don't think we owe it to anybody, to be honest. We should allow people to immigrate here based on how we feel they would be a benefit to the country, whether that's culturally, whether that's scientifically, whether that's financially. This isn't a fucking charity. We're a country. So like, as long as they're a benefit to America, I don't care. We should be vetting every single person that moves in. We should say this person is a good fit for our country. I literally don't care what country you're from. I literally don't. It doesn't matter anything to me. All that matters is like, what's your attitude towards America, and are you going to be a benefit? Which goes on to, if I were the president, this would be like one of my my policies. I call it the trade program. Okay, I will 1-to-1 trade any American that hates America for like American loving like foreigners that like want to become American citizens. I will gladly pay that as a taxpayer. 100%. It would be 100% worth it.
Which is that you're saying, yes, you're going to focus on the people with criminal histories, but everyone who's here illegally has to go.
I'm saying this. We have to get the criminals out of our country. We have to get people that were taken out of mental institutions and put them back into their mental institution, no matter what country it is. Do you know that Venezuela, their prisons are at the lowest point in terms of emptiness that they've ever been? They're taking their people out of those prisons by the thousands, and they're drunk.
Sorry, and I'm pausing it again, but this is like a problem I see like with this immigration issue is like, a lot of times you hear something about it and you're like, wow, that's like really mean. Like, what do you mean you don't want people in America, right? They kind of assume that like everybody who doesn't want immigration, like the way it is now, it's because they like hate people and they want families separated, and like, they hate a poor person that's like trying to like make a better life for their family. I don't hate them. I honestly like wish them well, and I wish the best for them, but it doesn't mean that we have an obligation to be involved in it. If we allow them to immigrate into our country, it should be on our terms. And it turns into, oh, you're like racist. You're like, you don't want any more like brown skinned people in the country. And that's like not true at all. I saw a video recently. Did you guys see this video where there was like this little girl that she fucking went into a store and she just went ballistic? And she just started throwing shit everywhere, and everyone was like, don't do anything to her. Like, don't do anything to her because, like, you know, like you might traumatize her. It's like somebody needs to do something about that. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't an issue of like, oh, like if I make her stop, it's like I'm being mean.
And just to get back, because I know exactly what you're getting at. Number one, we're doing criminals, and we're going to do them really rapidly. We're getting the worst gang probably with MS-13 and the Venezuelan gangs.
In a border state, I hate how northern and eastern states call us racists when we just want safe immigration and our resources to stop being overloaded.
Well, see, the funny thing about that is a lot of people that are against immigration live on a border state. And a lot of the people that are like for immigration, they live so far removed from like the actual like border areas. They don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? This is why like it was really funny. Like there was a period in time a couple of years ago where the governor of Texas like trolled New York. Did you guys hear about this? So what happened was there's a lot of illegal immigrants like crossing the border, and then like the governor of Texas like just put them all on buses and sent them to New York. It's kind of like, well, okay, well, you know, you want this, then here you go. And then they changed their mind like real quick.
In the world, they're vicious, violent people, and you see what they've done in Colorado and other places. They're literally taking over apartment complexes and doing it with impunity. They don't care. They just are. They're in the real estate business.
You know, the local police say that is not the case in Colorado.
Oh, it's totally the case. I mean, you
don't believe the local police.
I play it. I used to play it at my rallies every single night.
Thank you.
No, they're breaking into doors. They're taking over the building.
But sir,
like for instance, in New York, there's a lot of people like pissed off about it.
The police are afraid to do anything.
You raised the point that the logistics are complicated. You said it yourself.
But everything's complicated.
Yeah, you need 24 times more ICE detention capacity just to deport 1 million people per year, not to mention more agents, more judges, more planes. Is it realistic to deport everyone who's here illegally?
You have no choice. First of all, they're costing us a fortune. But we're starting with the criminals, and we got to do it. And then we're starting with others, and we're going to see how it goes.
Who are the others?
Others are other people outside of criminals. We have convicted murders. We don't mean people that are even on trial. We have people that have murdered numerous people are on our streets and in our farms, and we have to get them out of our country.
What about dreamers, sir? Dreamers who were brought to this country illegally as children. You said once back in 2017, they, quote, shouldn't be very worried about being deported. Should they be worried now?
The dreamers are going to come later, and we have to do something about the dreamers because these are people that have been brought here at a very...
The dreamers is kind of a tough problem, I think, because they're kind of taken here illegally against their will. But I don't know if that changes. I don't know if that changes the calculation. I think it needs to be taken on a case-by-case basis. Like this person that is here now, like, are they going to be a benefit? Is it a tragedy that they were taken here as children illegally? Yeah, it's a tragedy. But like, I don't think it changes the equation.
A young age, and many of these are middle-aged people now. They don't even speak the language of their country. And yes, we're going to do something about the dreamers.
What does that mean?
That is true. That is a problem. Like sometimes they might not be able to speak the language from the country that they came from. So it's kind of like, again, I think it's a case-by-case business.
Securing the border and venting, the immigration process should take months, not years, to migrate to America.
Sure, I think I agree with that, Sleepy Snow. Thank you for the bits. I think you could make the process like faster, but then make it so you get the answer of yes or no. I don't think we should say yes to everybody. Does this make sense? We shouldn't say yes to everybody, but for the people that we are going to say yes to, we should make that faster.
What are you going to do?
I will work with the Democrats on a plan, and if we can come up with a plan, but the Democrats have made it very, very difficult to do anything. Republicans are very open to the dreamers. The dreamers, we're talking many years ago, they were brought into this country. Many years ago. Some of them are no longer young people. In many cases, they become successful. They have great jobs. In some cases, they have small businesses. Some cases, they might have large businesses.
Again, if that's the case, if they did like create like their own business, they're hiring a lot of people, they're like a clear benefit to like America, I think we should just keep them in. I know that might be a hot take because like they came in under illegal circumstances, but I think we have to be like a little bit pragmatic about it. But like if they're like a person that's like committing crimes and they don't really contribute to society, then I think we should send them back.
And we're going to have to do something with them.
Keep the good ones? Yeah. What's wrong with that? America is a country. We're not a fucking charity to the rest of the world. Although that's how it's kind of been. I don't know. I don't think America should be a charity to the rest of the world, but that's kind of like what's going on.
And
you want them to be able to stay. That's what you're saying.
I do.
Okay.
I want to be able to work something out. It should have been able to be worked out over the last 3 or 4 years, and it never got worked out. You know, Biden could have done it
If they are
because he
clearly a
controlled.
benefit and they have spent the majority of their life in America, why shouldn't we make them citizens?
Yeah, I agree. As long as they're a part of it, you know. Giving like citizenship to dreamers has to come simultaneously with like making sure that this doesn't happen in the future, because we can't make a loophole. They say, you can't get in here illegally unless like you're a kid and like your parents like, because then what happens is it becomes an incentive to come in illegally with like your kid so that your kid can get citizenship.
Congress, to a certain extent, right? He could have done something, but they didn't do it. I never understood why, because they always seem to want to do it, but then when it comes down to it, they don't. I think we can work with the Democrats and work
if it was a
something
video
Let me
game
ask you
that
about another group
exploits
of
would have
people.
been patched.
Thanks for the bits. True. That's true. That's actually great. If it was it's an exploit. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of exploits, actually.
The estimated 4 million families in America who have mixed immigration status. So I'm talking about parents who might be here illegally, but the kids are.
I don't know if I have an understanding of this because like I'm a game designer, but like I always consider how people are gonna abuse a thing. Like anytime I add a mechanic, I always think about like how they're gonna abuse it.
Here legally, your borders are.
You're talking
Tom
about separation.
Homan. Yeah, well, I mean, there are two aspects to this. Your borders are. Tom Homan said they can be deported together.
Correct.
Is that the plan?
Well, that way you keep well, I don't want to be breaking up families, so the only way you don't break up the family is you keep them together, and you have to send them all back.
Even kids who are here legally?
Well, what you're going to do if they want to stay with the father? Look, we have to have rules and regulations. You can always find something out like, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. I'll tell you what's going to be horrible. When we take a wonderful young woman with a criminal, and they show the woman, and she could stay by the law, but they show the woman being taken out. They want her out, and your cameras are focused on her as she's crying, as she's being taken out of our country, and then the public turns against us. But we have to do our job, and you have to have a series of standards and a series of laws. And in the end, look, our country is a mess. We have the highest crime rate, and during the debate, a man whose ratings have gone way down, David Muir, said to me, no.
The casual shit talk, dude, just like out the side, like has nothing to do with anything.
Crime is because
so
I had to
funny.
debate 3 people, not one. Debating 1 was easy. Debating 3 was actually pretty easy too, if you want to know the truth. But David Muir said the crime rates have gone down. I said no, they've gone up. And then the following day they released the crime rates, and they were way up.
Yeah, and the FBI statistics are. You're talking about those FBI statistics.
Well, no, but
which
he
Thanks for the
gave
follow,
the
Cal. Thank
wrong
you.
answer. The
Confusing
crime rates
based
have
on what
gone
you're
up.
looking at.
But a lot of that is migrant crime.
Let me ask you about another aspect
But Christian,
of this.
you know a lot of it's migrant crime.
Well, let me ask you about another aspect of this that I think a lot of people are really curious about. I mean, 3% of the people who are here illegally have criminal histories. But in your first administration, you had the zero tolerance policy, where we did see family separations.
Yeah.
You ended it. The purpose of that, though, to some extent, and you talked about this at the time, was deterrent.
You also had it with Obama. You do know that.
He didn't have a zero tolerance policy.
And you also know he built the jails for children.
He didn't have a zero tolerance policy.
But in 2014, he built the jails. You know that.
I want to ask you about the zero tolerance policy. I mean, he didn't have.
Yeah, they always use that against Trump, like the kids in the cages thing. But it was already like that before him.
Systemic, we're going to separate families. Were separated when parents were a threat to the kids.
We don't have to separate a family. Excuse me, Kristen.
Yeah.
We don't have to separate families.
Yeah.
We'll send the whole family very humanely back to the country where they came. That way the family's not separated.
So no
Of course. They can be deported together.
No more family separations. You're not reviving
It
the
depends
zero
on the family.
tolerance
The
policy.
family may
That guy is
decide
like
to
so-
say, I'd rather
dude,
have dad go,
that guy's
and
wild.
we'll stay here. And in which case they have that option.
But you're not going to revive your zero tolerance policy, which was put in place as a deterrent. Is there any universe where you would bring that back, sir?
We need deterrence. Look, ready? When somebody comes here illegally, they're going out. It's very simple. When they come here illegally, they're going out. Now, if they come here illegally, but their family is here legally, then the family has a choice. The person that came in illegally can go out, or they can all go out together. And that was made very clear by Tom Homan.
So you're not, at this point in time, planning to revive that zero tolerance policy where kids are
Well, if you call that,
separated.
yeah, I'm doing what I just told you I'm going to do. I don't want to send the family out. I don't want to send anybody out. But I'll tell you, we have to. because otherwise we have no country. If we don't have borders, and if we don't have voting, good voting, fair voting, do you know they're still counting votes in San Diego, California? Listen, they're still counting the votes. This is almost 4 weeks.
I wonder why this happened, because it wasn't always like this, was it? I feel like the taking forever to count votes was like a new thing that happened in 2020. I don't think it was always like that. Usually, before, you just found out right away on like election day.
They're still counting the votes. If we don't have fair elections and honest voting and machines that work quickly, you know, if you had paper ballots, every election will be over by 10 o'clock in the evening.
So, let me ask you.
You understand what I'm saying?
Let me, before we get
and you get a much more accurate count.
Before we get to all of that, let me ask you about some of your other promises on this topic. You've promised to end birthright citizenship on day one. Is that still your plan?
Yeah, absolutely.
The 14th Amendment, though, says that, quote, all persons born in the United States are citizens. Can you get around the 14th Amendment?
Wait. That's not the... Wait. That's not what it says. There's no fucking way. All persons born and naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Subject of the jurisdiction thereof, it excludes children of foreign diplomats or military personnel stationed within America. So why would that apply to people that just come here then?
Subject to the jurisdiction thereof means you are subject to the laws and jurisprudence of the land. Foreign diplomats are under diplomatic immunity and thus not subject to the courts of the United
diplomatic
States
immunity.
while here, generally speaking. You've surely heard of diplomatic immunity.
Mm-hmm. But why do foreign soldiers also have diplomatic immunity? Because this applies to foreign soldiers as well. This is interesting. But so here's the thing: is how is he going to change that? So like I think this is bad. Obviously, it's very exploitable. This is not like this is a very exploitable law, and like it's kind of hard to believe like this is what they actually meant when they made it. So it's kind of like, how would they even change it, right? Like, because you would need significant power in order to change this.
The 14th Amendment was added specifically for enslaved people within the Union. The founders thought that slavery would eventually end and W.
2/3 of both houses of Congress, then ratified by ratified by legislatures of 3/4 of states. That's fucking impossible, man. Holy shit. This is going to be a hard one.
We have thousands of judges.
The trick is to make
Somebody
it much
walks
more
onto
clear
our
that it only
land,
applies to legal and
we have to now
naturalized immigrants.
say, welcome
and
to the
not
United
illegals
States.
who commit violent crimes.
They could be a criminal or not a criminal. We release them into our country. It's called catch and release. We release them into our country. Wait just 1 second. And now they get them lawyers. And the lawyers are good lawyers. And everybody has a lawyer. And you know how many judges we have? Thousands. Now, here's what other countries do. They come into the land and they say, I'm sorry, you have to go. And they take them out. Okay? With us, once they touch our land, we're into litigation that lasts for years, costs us hundreds of billions of dollars. We have judges, and I'm sure they're all honest, but I don't know that for a fact. You can imagine what's going on with the judges. But just so because I have a lot of judges, I tell you what, I know more about judges than any human being in history. Look, we have judges. Every time somebody puts 2 feet or even 1 foot on a piece of our land, it's welcome to long-term litigation. Other countries, every other country, when somebody walks on, see that they're here illegally, they walk them off, they take them back to where they came from. We have to get rid of this system. It's killing our country.
Let's talk about health care. I've been talking to Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill. They say it's no longer feasible to repeal and replace Obamacare because it's so entrenched in the system. Do you see it that way? Is that now off the table, repealing and replacing
when John
Obamacare?
McCain let us down by voting, and Murkowski and Collins and whoever it was that voted against, but they really let us down. They did us a great disservice because we would have had great health. Obamacare is lousy health care. It's very expensive health care for the people. It's also expensive for the country. For the people. It's lousy health care. After saying for 10 years that he wants to repeal and replace, okay? And then he came out, put his now famous thumbs down, and he became a hero to the left. Let me tell you, if we find something better, I would love to do it. But one thing I have to say, I inherited Obamacare. Anything else you want to go? It's got about 20 names, but I inherited it. And I had a decision to make. And a lot of political people said, let it rot and let it be a failure. I said, that's not the right thing to do.
Kind of based, honestly. The let it rot mentality, I think, is kind of bad because it's going to hurt like people.
Good people in the medical area that handled that. And I said, what do you want to do? He said, we really have an obligation to make it as good as we can. And we did. We made it as good as we can make it. Instead of making it bad where everybody would be calling for its repeal, I made it so that it works. Now,
but you did try to overturn it, sir.
It's
you did
lousy.
Try to overturn it. You did have your Justice Department try to direct the Supreme Court to.
No, we got a little bit of a surprising opinion, to be honest with you. If it would have been overturned, we would have had much better health care right now. But right now,
I think what he's trying to say, and again, I'm being generous here. I don't know if this is what he means, but I think what he means is like he wants to overturn it and replace it with something better.
We have something that I made the best of. I could have made the worst of it, and it would have fallen by the wayside. I did the right thing from a human standpoint, but I'm sort of proud of my decision. At the same time, sometimes I regret it. I told the people, and I gave them the money to do it. I said, fix it, make it work, because people would have suffered. But it's too bad that they voted no. I wish John McCain, he fought for 10 years on replacing Obamacare for 10 years, and then he voted against. Nobody understands it.
Sir, you said during the campaign you had concepts of a plan.
He didn't like you. That's the answer. He didn't like you.
Do you have an actual plan at this point for health care?
Yes, we have concepts of a plan that would be better.
Still just concepts?
He was big mad.
You have a fully developed plan?
Let me explain. We have the biggest healthcare companies looking at it. We have doctors. We're always looking because Obamacare stinks. It's lousy. There are better answers. If we come up with a better...
If it's true, though, if it's true that he voted no just to fuck over Trump, that's actually kind of fucked up, I think. That's really bad for, like, the country. If you actually thought that, like, it would be a good idea and then you, like, vote no just because you hate the person, I think that's very bad. Very bad politics, I think.
Better answer. I would present that answer to Democrats and to everybody else, and I do something about it. But until we have that, or until they can approve it, but we're not going to go through the big...
I think people should just be you should vote for whatever is going to be the best for people. Just because your enemy came up with an idea that's better than yours, and then you're going to vote against it. That's stupid.
Deal.
That's idiotic.
I am the one that saved Obamacare, I will say, and I did the right thing. I could have done the more political thing and killed it, and all I had to do is starve it to death.
You did try to have your Justice Department effectively kill it, though,
No,
sir.
Kill it from a legal standpoint, but from a physical standpoint, I made it work.
In your concepts of a plan, sir, will people with pre-existing conditions still have coverage, and can you guarantee their prices will not go up?
The answer is yes, they'll have coverage. You have to have it.
And what about their prices?
Because you know what?
What about their prices, sir?
I want the prices to go down. I want to have better health care for less money. And there are ways of doing it, I believe. And I have the smartest people in that world. That's a separate world unto itself. I have the smartest people in that world looking at it and trying. And if they come up with something, I will present it. Now, maybe you won't be able to sell it, but if we get better health care for less money, I believe it's very saleable.
Just very quickly, when will we see your fully developed plan? When are you going to show
I don't know that you'll see
that?
it at all. I can only say that we have some of the best health care people. I've always tinkered with it. I think it's a little hard to explain.
This interview is like not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Obamacare, when I took it over, was a disaster.
It's okay so far.
It has insured 20 million people.
Yeah, because of me. If you look at what I did, I made it good.
You tried
legally.
To repeal and replace it. You tried to kill it,
because if I repealed it and replaced it, we would have had a better system because we wouldn't have had health care.
This is why I like kind of like the Joe Rogan format more. Like I think it's so much better for like actually like discussing ideas.
Democrats would have been forced to do something. If we wouldn't have had it, the Democrats would have been forced to do something that they wouldn't do if we have it.
Let me ask you about another aspect of healthcare. You talked about this on the campaign trail, IVF. You promised free IVF for all who want it, either through the government or through mandates with insurance companies. I've been hearing from Republican senators, some of them, who say they're not going to support that plan. How are you going to get that passed?
Well, we're going to see. We want them to pay, ideally the insurance companies to pay for it, the fertilization. I came out very early for a Republican especially, and I think that
if there is a population issue, I think you could justify tax dollars for that. Maybe, I don't know. It's kind of like on the edge though. It's kind of like we're in the middle. I don't know if I would be for that, or I'm not like strictly for it, not strictly against it. I have to think about it for a little bit. IVF is like people that like basically like people that can't fucking have kids. There's like some people that like they have issues.
They were looking for my guidance, my great wisdom, right?
But you know, it might be the issue of like, depends how it's used. Might be one of those things.
They were looking for it. And I got a call from Katie Britt, who's a terrific person, senator from Alabama. And she said, sir, we just had a really negative ruling from a judge in Alabama, conservative judge, that all of these clinics had to be closed. And she said, and she went into great detail. And
Alfie says the interviewer is out for blood. Attacking is no way to lead an interview. Having to go on the defense for each answer creates a bad rhythm. That's kind of true, but I do like when they press the person. I don't like interviews where it's like, what do you think about this? And then they're like, da 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 da, and they're like, okay, what do you think about this? Da, 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 da. I kind of like when they kind of dig a little bit deeper. I do like that. It's kind of why, like I said, I like the Joe Rogan format more than I like interviews specifically.
She said people are devastated over it. And after literally speaking to her for 5 minutes, I issued an order, really an order in a sense. It was a statement from the Republican Party that we are all for IVF and fertilization. Okay. The Alabama legislature met the following day and passed it. It was a beautiful thing to see. And I consider myself to be the father of IVF in a certain way. And the Republicans were very strong on the issue.
But, sir, I want to understand where it falls in your list of priorities. I mean, is this something we can expect to see you try to move on in the first 100 days?
We're going to be talking about it, and we're going to be seeing. We have a lot of other things. I have tax cuts.
Yo, Chaser, thank you so much.
You know, we'll be submitting in either the first or second package to Congress the extension of the tax cuts. So it might very well be in there, or it'll come sometime after that.
Let's talk about abortion, sir. You have taken responsibility for overturning Roe v. Wade. You've said that abortion is now a state issue. There are steps that you could take, though, as president to restrict abortion through executive action without Congress. More than half of abortions in this country are medication abortions. Will you restrict the availability of abortion pills when you're in office?
I'll probably stay with exactly what I've been saying for the last 2 years, and the answer is no.
You commit to that?
Well, I commit. I mean, do things change? I think they change. I hate to go on shows like Joe Biden. I'm not going to give my son a pardon. I will not, under any circumstances, give him a pardon. I watched this, and I always knew he was going to give him a pardon, and so I don't like putting myself in a position like that. So things do change, but...
You don't want to know my real stance on this, guys. You don't want to know.
I don't think it's going to change at all.
Okay, let's talk about...
This is like the one issue I'm like the most radical on.
Some of your picks to fill out your administration. You named Kash Patel to be the next FBI director. Yeah. He has a list in his book of 60 people that he calls members of the so-called deep state. It includes Democrats like Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton. It includes former members of your cabinet, from Bill Barr to Christopher Wray. You campaigned on destroying the deep state. Do you want Kash Patel to launch investigations into people on that list?
No, I mean, he's going to do what he thinks is right. And
I will tell you. Do you think that's right, sir?
If they think that somebody was dishonest or crooked or a corrupt politician, I think he probably has an obligation to do it.
But are you going to direct him to do it?
No, not at all. Not at all. We have two great people there. We have him, and Pam Bondi has been like a rocket ship. She's very popular and very good and very fair. And Kash Patel is very fair. I'll tell you.
Zevin says, I'm an avid Alex Jones watcher. Dude, I wish Alex Jones became the press secretary. That would have been the greatest thing ever. And I'm really upset that this opportunity is not happening. It's like the biggest missed opportunity in like political history is Alex Jones as press secretary. It would have been the funniest shit. I would have watched it every day. It would have been the greatest show to like watch the White House press briefing like every day. It would have been so good. We would have watched it every day because it would have been so funny.
I thought Kash may be difficult because he's strong.
Thanks for the visit, darling. Thank you.
Conservative voice. And I don't know of anybody that's not singing his praises. The other day I was watching, and Trey Gowdy, who's a moderate person and very smart and very respected.
Dude, you have to admit, even if you don't like Alex Jones, even if you don't like him, you have to admit it would be fucking hilarious. It would be the funniest shit to have him as press secretary. Just imagine like him being up there and getting grilled by the media. It would be fucking amazing. It would be absolute cinema, like every day. I still want Brandon Herrera to be ATF director. Me too. That would also be fucking hilarious. Bro selling the super male vitality at a press conference.
He's Cash's biggest fan. He said, this is the most misunderstood man in politics. He's great. I guess they work.
I just want to see him like fucking rip his shirt off like in the middle of like the press conference and start screaming.
Together on the Russia hoax or something. And Trey Gowdy became a fan. Trey Gowdy.
Shit.
Everybody respects him. And, just like him, others also. I don't know of one negative vote. I don't think he's going to have any negative votes.
Is it your expectation, though, that Kash Patel will pursue investigations against your political enemy?
I don't think so.
Do you want to see that happen?
If they were crooked, if they did something wrong, if they broken the law, probably they went after me. They went after me and I did nothing wrong.
Well, let me ask you this. You said President Biden, quote, that you're going to appoint a real special prosecutor to go after Joe Biden. You said that during the campaign.
Where?
You said that on Truth Social, June 12th, 2023. I will appoint a real special prosecutor to go after the most corrupt president in the history of the United States, Joe Biden, and the entire Biden crime family. Are you going to do that? Are you going to go after Joe Biden?
I'm really looking to make our country successful. I'm not looking to go back into the past. I'm looking to make our country successful. Retribution will be through success. If we can make this country successful, that would be that would be such a great achievement. Bring it back. We have a country now that's overridden with crime, that has millions of people that shouldn't be here, that should be in prisons in other countries, that should be in mental institutions. We have drug lords being dropped into our country and told never go back to their country. I'm looking to make our country great. I'm looking to bring prices down because, I won on two things, the border and more than immigration. They like to say immigration.
Remy says, I don't want them getting away with everything. It's true. It's hard to say. Justice demands that he does go after them. I'd have to think about this more.
I break it down more to the border, but I won on the border and I won on groceries. It's a very simple word, groceries. Like almost, who uses the word? I started using the word. The groceries, when you buy apples, when you buy bacon, when you buy eggs, they would double and triple the price over a short period of time. And I won an election based on that. We're going to bring those prices way down.
I want to pause here because what you're saying is significant. Because you wrote on Truth Social in 2023 that you're going to appoint a real special prosecutor to go after Joe Biden. Now you're saying you're not going to do that.
I will say this. No, I'm not doing that unless I find something that I think is reasonable. But that's not going to be my decision. That's going to be Pam Bondi's decision and, to a different extent, Kash Patel. Assuming they're both there, and I think they're both going to get.
So what he's saying is okay, fair enough. So what he's saying is he's not going to personally push for it. He's not going to personally push for it, but then like if people want to look into it, that's like out of his hands, basically. I think that's fair. I think it's fair.
But I, while you ask me that,
people in government need to be reminded that they work for US the people.
Is it?
Yeah, I agree.
Disgrace.
We'll get to some of that.
I love that, wasn't it the guy who's gonna be the border czar guy? Like that guy, he had like that one. He basically told him to shut up because they work for him.
No, wait. You can't do one without the other.
But you work for me.
In the history of our country, nothing like this has ever happened. And I've won these cases. I've won every one, and the rest are in the process of being won. Deranged Jack Smith is on his way back to The Hague, where he can execute people. This is where he should have stayed. I think he's dangerous even being there. But I'll tell you what they've done to me in terms of weaponization, indictments, impeachments, and everything else. And in the end, it probably helped me because I got the biggest vote, the most votes any Republican's ever gotten in history.
Pam Bondi talks about investigating the investigators. Do you want her to investigate Jack Smith?
I want her to do what she wants to do.
Do you want to see Jack Smith investigated?
Well, I think he's very corrupt, but I want her to do whatever she has to do.
Are you going to direct her to prosecute Jack Smith?
She's a very smart person. She was a great attorney general in Florida. She's very experienced. I want her to do what she wants to do. I'm not going to instruct her to do it now.
Sir, are you going to fire the current FBI director, Christopher Wray, who you appointed?
Well, I can't say I'm thrilled with him. He invaded my home. I'm suing the country over it.
He's a fellow shapeshift. Thank you.
Mar-a-Lago. I'm very unhappy with the things he's done. And crime is at an all-time high. Migrants are pouring into the country that are from prisons and from mental institutions, as we've discussed. I can't say I'm thrilled. I don't want to be Joe Biden and give you an answer and then do the exact opposite.
We're going to talk about
that. So I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to say is I certainly cannot be happy with him. You take a look at what's happened. And then when I was shot in the ear, he said, oh, maybe it was shrapnel. Where's the shrapnel coming from? Is it coming from heaven? I don't think so.
What?
So We need somebody to straighten. I have a lot of respect for the FBI, but the FBI's respect has gone way down over the last number of years.
Don't you have to fire him in order to make room for Kash Patel if he is, in fact, confirmed?
Well, I mean, it would sort of seem pretty obvious that if Kash gets in, he's going to be taking somebody's place, right? And somebody is the man that you're talking about.
Let's talk about Project 2025. This is the conservative policy blueprint. You disavowed it during the campaign. You called it a product of the radical right.
Wait, why is she asking? Wait, hold on. This one's kind of weird.
You've said some of their ideas were abysmal.
I said some of it is. Some of it is very
radical right. You blueprint. You disavowed it.
Yeah, I don't get this. I don't get the 20. I don't know why they're so stuck. Didn't he already said like I don't know what Project 2025 is. I didn't write it. I don't endorse it. Why do they keep bringing it up? This is like
during the campaign, you called it
a
product of the radical right. You've said some of their ideas were abysmal.
I said some of it is. Some of it is very good. Some of it's very mainstream, actually. Frankly, the Democrats should have used some of it because they went, with all the transgender that they were doing and with the men playing in women's sports. Well, if they wouldn't have done that, maybe they would have done better.
Well, so you take me to my question. You're now giving people involved in Project 2025 prominent roles in your administration. Are you changing your mind about Project 2025? Is this now the policy blueprint for the second Trump administration?
Some people, if you take a look at the group, it was hundreds of people were involved. And I was actually, I reprimanded.
I actually don't know what Project 2025 is. I feel like, should I read it? How long is it? How long is the Project 2025 thing? 900. Fuck that, bro.
The whole group. I said, you shouldn't have placed this
900 pages. Fuck that
document in
Never mind, bro. I changed my mind.
I have a video
of the
that
voters
goes through
because I have nothing to do with it, and I'm the one that's running. You had no right to do this where you put 1,000-page document in front, and many of those things I disagree with. Now, many of those things I happen to agree with. Many of those things Democrats should have agreed to, and I think they would have done much better in the election because they got slaughtered.
Well, I guess people see the list: Russ Vought, Brendan Carr, Peter Navarro, John Ratcliffe, Pete Hoekstra, Monica Crowley, and they think these are all of the people who were involved in or writing Project 2025. This must be a blueprint for work requirements, eliminating the Head Start program, criminalizing pornography. Is that what we can expect to see?
I don't know how they voted. I don't know. I never spoke to them actually about it. And I purposely, and I told you, normally it would be just the opposite. I'd review every page. I purposely didn't even want to see it because when somebody like you asked me a question about Project 2025, I can honestly say I've never seen it. I have nothing to do with it. I didn't read it, but I did hear some things in there that I would totally disagree with. And I said to the people that were really the people behind it, you know who those people are, I said, you really had no right doing this to me because they used it as a soundbite, the Democrats. And I don't know, it couldn't have been too effective because they got slaughtered, but they did use it as a soundbite.
But to people who see,
he's just like, dude, he always takes like every opportunity to like talk a little bit of shit each time.
He's bringing in all of these people from Project 2025. He must know what it is.
Well, you know what? I don't know what it is. No, I don't know what it is.
You still don't know what it is?
But I heard certain things that I didn't like. And by the way, I heard certain things that are phenomenal. Law and order. We want law and order. Okay? Little things like, let's put prisoners in jail. Let's not let people come out and raid every drugstore in Manhattan so that we have to put glass up and every store is going out of business.
Let me ask you about something you've referenced a couple of times in this interview. I asked you last time we sat down for an interview if you were going to pardon yourself. You said no. But now that President Biden has pardoned his son, Hunter, are you reconsidering? Might you pardon yourself?
I didn't do anything wrong. I was given the option. And the lawyers told me, a very specific lawyer, I don't have to go into who, but very high up in the administration said, sir, if you pardon yourself, you're going to look guilty. And you did nothing wrong. Oh, I had that option. I could have saved myself a lot of legal fees, but it turned out that I was right. Look at what's gone on. Everything's being dropped. I still have a Fani Willis, a total hoax. That's a total hoax. It's all being dropped. It's all been discredited. It's been dropped. There are those people that say, and this would be the first time in history, though all of those fake indictments, they were going after a political opponent. There are those that say that I actually did better in the election because of it. Now, that would be a first. I think you would agree, because normally that's like you go back to the microphones, you say, I'm leaving right now. I will leave office. I'm going back to my family and I will fight for my name. Well, I had to fight for my name in public because I didn't leave office. But no, I didn't want to pardon, and I didn't want to pardon myself. I had the option to pardon myself.
And you don't want one now? You're not going to pardon yourself now?
What do I need one for? First of all, I've won almost all of the cases.
What if President
Biden... the ones that I didn't win are on resuscitation.
What if President Biden offered you a pardon? Would you accept it?
I've never even thought about it. I don't think he'll do it. Look, if he did, he's the one that started this whole... He got the Justice Department to go after him. And the state cases are all being run by the Justice Department, which is illegal. They had their people from the Justice Department work for Alvin Bragg in order to get something going. They worked for Letitia James in the state. He had his people go from the federal government and take lesser jobs in the state in order to get done.
And you know he denies he had anything to do with it.
No, you can't deny it. You know why?
Yeah.
Because they were there. Wait a minute. You have a tendency to sort of like slough over things. You just made a statement. His person, maybe the third or second or third person, the federal government, the DOJ, and went to work for Letitia James. And then, after they got that one started, went to work for the DA.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you about some of this new...
That is kind of weird, if that's true.
Reporting. NBC News is reporting that President Biden is considering giving preemptive pardons to the likes of Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, and Anthony Fauci. If President Biden doesn't issue those pardons, do you think they are going to wish that he had? Are they going to be pursued?
I can tell you this about Cheney, and she's a so-called Republican. I think she hurt the Democrats terribly. When I saw that Kamala put Cheney out on the campaign trail, I said, that's the end of Kamala. I really did. I thought it was a terrible move.
I think she was a negative. I think the funny thing is, I think she was a negative, and I think all the Democrats that jumped ship were all a positive.
Especially if you're a Democrat. But Cheney did something that's inexcusable, along with Thompson and the people on the Unselect Committee of political thugs and, creeps. So the Unselect Committee...
I think the reason why is because I think that... this is just my observation of the political left, is they're like very Puritan about like the causes where like you have to either like fully bend the knee or get the fuck out. So I don't think they forgive. They really forgive her for that, for anything that she did. So like basically like her endorsement doesn't really do anything. Whereas people aren't really like that, I think. People are a little bit more like, and this is why you have a lot of like squabbling like on the right, because the thing is, people on the left are a lot more in sync, a lot more they have a lot more solidarity. People on the right fucking fight each other like all the time, and I think it's a little bit more open to like different ideas because of that. And the thing is they're never gonna stop fighting. The people on the right will never stop fighting with each other and fucking punching each other in the face, and that's why it makes it harder to do things as well.
Went through a year and a half of testimony. They deleted and destroyed all evidence of that they found. You know why? Because Nancy Pelosi was guilty. Nancy Pelosi turned down...
I'm not saying that's like literally everybody. Like obviously there'll be like exceptions to the rule. But I think like this is just how I feel about things. It's like it seems like the percentage is higher, basically.
10,000 troops. You wouldn't have had a J6 because other people were guilty. The people that said that I attacked 2 Secret Service agents in a car. I grabbed one around the neck. I was then rebuffed, and I grabbed the other one. These are 2 of the toughest men anywhere on the planet. They happen to be slightly younger than me, maybe, just a little bit. Let me just tell you. They testified. They said it was total and all of this stuff.
I didn't do that. That was a video.
People lied so badly. This was a committee, a big deal. They lied. And what did they do? They deleted and destroyed a whole year and a half worth of testimony. Do you know that I think those people committed a major crime.
Sir.
And Cheney was behind it.
Well,
and so was Benny Thompson and everybody on that committee. For what they did.
Yeah.
Honestly, they should go to jail.
Ooh.
So you think Liz Cheney should go to jail?
For what they did.
Everyone on the committee, you think?
I think everybody anybody that voted in favor.
Are you going to direct your FBI director and your attorney general to send them to jail?
No, not at all. I think that they'll have to look at that, but I'm not going to.
So what he's saying is like, I'm not going to force it, but this is what I think. That's what he's saying. So he's basically saying like, I think this, but I won't wield power like in that direction. That's what he's saying.
Focus on drill, baby, drill.
When you say
I think that's fine. I think that's fine, honestly. Like there's a lot of times there's a lot of like nuance behind this where like people will believe like one thing, but then they won't wield power in that direction because it's like a little bit more extreme and they understand that it is.
Carries weight though. You've tapped these people to lead the Justice Department and FBI.
They can do whatever they want.
Okay.
Biden can give him a pardon if he wants to, and maybe he should. Just remember, unselect committee, a year and a half of sworn testimony, and after getting all of the testimony, they deleted it and they destroyed almost everything. There's nothing left. It's unprecedented.
And they deny
you do that in a civil case. Yeah. You go.
That seems pretty bad. I mean, if that's true, I mean, like I feel like they should look into that. You know what I mean?
To jail.
And then if they did nothing wrong, then they did nothing wrong. Like
deny doing that, and officials say that the order never came in for the National Guard. But on January 6th, let me ask you this about January 6th. I think you're going to want to answer
wrote
this.
in a statement that he has destroyed all evidence.
Let me ask you this about January 6th.
I wish you could be you have such potential. If you could
He's taking it over.
Just non-biased.
Oh my God, you should give him the crazy eyes. Like, actually.
You hurt yourself so badly. I'm telling you, they deleted and destroyed all the evidence. Everyone knows it. And you slough it off.
I like that he's not letting her run on this. I do like that.
It doesn't mean anything.
No, I'm just saying they deny it. That's all I'm saying.
Kristen, if I did it, you would be standing up in that chair shouting at me. And you know what I'd do? I'd say, you got me.
I don't know. I don't know about that, Trump. Okay, hold up. I don't know about that.
They have done something.
I don't know about that far.
They have a committee.
You had me until that part, you got me. No.
Sworn to, and because it was so bad, the only reason they did it is because the testimony turned out to be.
There's no fucking way, man.
Like Secret Service testified.
It's a good line, yeah, it's a good line.
And disputed everything. It made them into a bunch of liars. Not Secret Service, it made the people. They got rid of it because it made Nancy Pelosi, the mayor of D.C., so many people look like criminals. And I will tell you, it's illegal for them to delete and to destroy that evidence.
Let me ask you about January 6th in a different capacity, okay? I think you're going to want to answer this question. You promised to pardon those who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Are you still vowing to follow through with that promise?
Well, I have a hot take, guys. I don't think you should pardon everyone from there. I think it depends what they did, because there are people that did commit violent acts on that day. I get so mad at this whole like January 6th thing, because like half of the people are like, yeah, fucking lock all of them up. Like, yeah, they're all terrible people. Like, keep them up like forever, like in solitary. Fuck them. And then there's like the other half of people like, no one did nothing wrong. No one did nothing wrong. It's not the case. Like, there are people that like did barely anything, and then there are people that were violent. And it's like, I feel like it needs to be like a case by case basis. Like, we kind of threw everyone into the same group. Like for both sides are throwing like everyone into like the same group, where it's not the case.
Looking at it right now, most likely, yeah.
Well,
I saw the videos, guys. I saw the videos. I saw both people just calmly walking around and just being like dumb, and then I saw people who were like literally like hitting police officers with objects. I saw both, and it can be true at the same time. Like it can both be true at the same time, that there were people that were crazy and they were wilding out, and then there were people that were just kind of being a little bit dumb and just kind of like, ooh, like, look, I'm in the Capitol building. Oh. You know what I mean? It's a little bit of both, and treating them like both the same, I don't think is correct. If they actually did commit violence and actually did violent acts against police officers, then they should face the consequences of that. And then the people that like did barely anything, I mean, like, do they really need to be locked up in like for how many years? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
People have suffered long and hard, and there may be some exceptions to it. I have to look, but if somebody was
and some of the dipshits were fucking feds. Yeah, that was interesting. That is interesting, that whole thing. I know what you're talking about.
Crazy. There might be some people from Antifa there. I don't know, because those people seem to be in good shape. Whatever happened to Scaffold Man? You know who Scaffold Man was? He stood on a scaffold telling everybody to go, and nothing happened to him. Whatever happened to Ray Epps? Now, I don't know anything about Ray Epps.
That's the guy, Ray Epps. That's the dude.
It was sort of strange the way he was talking. Where is he? What happened to him?
Dude, Scaffold.
because the
Scaffold man sounds like a terrible fucking Marvel hero. Scaffold man.
people that did very little, they arrested an old woman because I don't think she did anything. They don't even know what she did. These people have suffered. Their lives have been destroyed. And yet in Portland, where they burned down half the city.
Same thing as like the art situation we talked about earlier. Double standard. Insane double standard.
They burn it down all the time. It's
my favorite was like the video where they're like, it's like it's peaceful protest, and like the fucking city is on fire behind the guy. That's like the funniest shot I've seen.
Routine occurrence. They don't do anything. They attacked the courthouse, federal courthouse. They always say federal building. Okay. They destroyed the beautiful limestone exterior of the courthouse in Portland. They killed people in Portland. Seattle, people got killed in Seattle.
Didn't they actually say that the guy was a Fed? Like the guy was like, all right, guys, we gotta go and we gotta get in there and we gotta take over the building. And then people were like pointing at him going, Fed. Isn't that what happened?
Fiery but mostly peaceful.
They're like, boo,
protests.
get out of here, Fed.
Seattle, they took over a big chunk of the city. They took it over. They took the city away. Minneapolis, it looked like when they said this is a friendly protest, and yet over the poor slob from CNN, his shoulder, the entire city was burning down. It looked like World War II. Nothing happened. But wait, nothing happened. They took over the police statement. They took over the police station in Minneapolis. They burned it down. Nothing happened to anybody. And yet these people have been in jail, and I hear the jail is a hellhole.
That is true. Like you have like a real double standard here, where like this happened that way, and then like during the riots and like when cities were getting taken over, they were like trying to do funds to get those people like help. I think Kamala Harris directly was a part of that, contributing to people's like legal fees and stuff.
They've done reports, and you would say that's true. They've done reports. This is the most disgusting, filthy place. These people are living in hell. And I think it's very unfair. But most likely I'll do it very quickly.
Very quickly. Okay, but some of them, 169 of them, have pleaded guilty to assaulting police officers.
Because they had no choice.
900 pleaded guilty to other crimes. They're also going to be eligible for a pardon from you?
Listen, it's a very tough system.
Leaflit
almost nobody. I saw people that didn't even go into the building and they were convicted. And you had the police saying, come on in, come on in. I mean, the police are saying, come on in, everybody, come on in.
Wasn't it D-Nice?
They had people, you have a lot of cameras. They don't want to release the tapes. So, but you're going to consider pardoning even those who pleaded guilty to crimes, including assaulting police officers? Well, sometimes they say, here's your choice.
You're not.
I don't think that the pleading guilty thing, I don't think it matters. I don't know, like the situation of it, but a lot of the times, like in these cases where like it's possible they got coerced into a plea because they were gonna get a harder sentence for something like that. They coerced it. It's an actual thing, so it kind of depends on like the individual situation.
So hey, there's a 99% chance you get convicted of a thing you didn't do. So how about saying you did a small crime instead?
Yeah, exactly.
The system's a very corrupt system. They say to a guy, you're going to go to jail for 2 years or for 30 years. And these guys are looking, their whole lives have been destroyed. For 2 years, they've been destroyed.
It might be worth it. Like if they said that we're going to lock you up for like 30 years, like we're going to go with 30-year sentence, or you can admit to this and then like take 2 years, it might be worth it, especially like if you think that you're in a biased area where they're just gonna hit you with it.
But the system is a very nasty system.
I'm
going to look at everything. We're going to look at individual cases. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm going to be acting very quickly.
Within your first 100 days, first day?
First day.
First day.
Yeah, I'm looking first day.
Issue these pardons.
These people have been there. How long is it? 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
By the way, they've been in there for years, and they're in a filthy, disgusting place that shouldn't even be allowed to be open.
Let's talk about.
I hope when they get out, like someone like Tucker or something, interviews every single fucking one of them and releases it, and they talk about like all of the shit that happened. I hope they do that.
Your cabinet picks. I know we started off talking about Pete Hegseth, but I just want to return to that very quickly. Have you gotten assurances from senators that he's going to be confirmed? Do you think he can make it?
No, I think you will, yeah. A lot of senators call me up saying he's fantastic.
You don't drink yourself.
No.
You've talked about how devastating drinking can be.
No.
How concerned are you that that the person who you picked for this top job at the Defense Department.
Wait, what?
Talked about how devastating drinking can be.
Yeah.
How concerned are you that the person who you picked for this top job at the Defense Department, at least according to those who've worked with him, has struggled with drinking?
But I've spoken to people that know him very well, and they say he does not have a drinking problem. Right. And, he had a lot of knives out for him. A lot of people don't want to see the military made better.
Let me ask you about former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. You picked her to be the Director of National Intelligence. Right. In 2017, she had 2 secret meetings with Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad. Do you have questions or concerns about those meetings?
No.
I don't know anything about this.
Problems right now.
Well, do you think it makes it hard for her?
His country is collapsing.
Yeah. I mean, do you think it compromises her ability to handle that?
I met with Putin. I met with President Xi of China. I met with Kim Jong-un twice. Does that mean that I can't be president?
Well, when you were president, they weren't secret meetings.
Look, people meet. All these people meet. I mean, I see some of the most dishonest people. I'll tell you, the 51 agents that said that the laptop wasn't from Hunter, it was from Russia. What about them? Tell me about them. Do you think they did something wrong? Do you think they were all so stupid that they thought that the laptop from hell?
So you have confidence in Tulsi Gabbard?
I do. She's a very respected person.
Let me ask you about RFK Jr. He has obviously...
Dang, she's going down the list now.
...talked about his skepticism of vaccines. He's expressed opposition to childhood vaccines.
Hold on. Isn't RFK, he's not even anti-vaccine. He just thinks that, right? He's not anti-vaccine. He just wants to know more about it. He just wants to make sure we check them and make sure that they're okay.
Do you want to see childhood vaccines eliminated?
If they're dangerous for the children. Look.
So possibly?
Is it the same thing? I don't think it's the same thing. I don't think that's the same thing at all.
You look at some of the problems, when you look at what's going on with disease and sickness in our country, something's wrong.
Are you talking about autism?
Well, if you take a look at autism, you go back 25 years, autism was almost non-existent. It was, 1 out of 100,000.
They're going to say that the counter to this is going to be we got better at detecting it.
And now it's close to 1 out of 100.
Well,
I mean, what's happening if they can find it? Now, I did something the other night that was a little unusual. At Mar-a-Lago, I called the drug companies, the top drug companies, and I called RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz and some of his people. And I said, let's all get together.
They should check the VTuber communities for that statistic. Bro.
And let's figure out where we're going, because we're going to do a lot of things. Number one, we're going to reduce prices, because the middleman makes more money than the drug companies, in all fairness to the drug companies. There's a middleman that nobody even knows who they are. You look at our drug prices, they're much higher than the prices for the same medicine, for the same stuff. So, and we were met for a long time, and we talked about pricing, and we talked about...
Most VTubers have the autism tag. I wouldn't trust any of those tags, honestly. That's why I don't put anything on there. Like I'm like 90% sure I probably have like ADHD, but I'll never put a tag on there. Or like it doesn't matter.
Vaccines, in terms of what happens. We talked about pesticides. We talked about everything, and I think a lot of good things are going to.
What's the other 10?
They come from him. He's not going to upset any system. He's not going to upset
the system. It's a joke. Guys, it's a joke. It's a joke. Don't get mad at me. It's a joke.
Reinvent the wheel totally. But when you look at the numbers, we really don't have a very healthy
today,
country.
I learned you as content creators on YouTube can block pharmaceutical companies from being able to advertise on your channel.
You as a content creator, really? Interesting.
Years, studies show that there is no link between vaccines and autism, and yet it sounds like you are open to the possibility of him looking
I'm open to
getting
anything.
rid of them.
I think somebody has to find out. If you go back 25 years ago, you had very little autism.
I don't mind making fun of myself, because I don't take myself that seriously.
Now you have it.
Well, they say because they're better at identifying it.
1 in 100,000, and now it's 1 in 100. That's a pretty bad number.
Childhood vaccines.
Something is going on. I don't know if it's vaccines. Maybe it's chlorine in the water, right? People are looking at a lot of different things.
Well, childhood vaccines.
I want them to look at everything.
Everything. So childhood vaccines have prevented about 4 million deaths around the world every year.
I think that's great. I'm all for it. I think it's great.
You don't have to be against all vaccines to say like it's a little bit sus. Like some of the vaccines are a little bit sus, and they have like the thing is with vaccines, and this is not just vaccines. This is all medication. All medication has almost all. I mean, some of them are just good, but almost all have a positive and a negative. You have to know what those are through research in order to make a informed judgment of if you want to take it or not. This idea that like, oh, like there's this new vaccine, it has this good effect. Just take it. Just fucking take it, man. Like, who cares? Like, just take it. It doesn't make any sense to me. People should have the information to know if they think that, like, for instance, like with the COVID vaccine, what are the negatives of the COVID vaccine? Then you take into account like your own risk factors. Oh, well, you know, it doesn't really hurt children. It doesn't like affect children that badly. And then the children will get natural immunity from like catching COVID. So then you just let them get it. Right? Like because them getting COVID conveys a lower risk than them having the vaccine. And how are you going to know that if you don't allow people to like question it?
I'm not against vaccines. The polio vaccine is the greatest thing. If somebody told me get rid of the polio vaccine, they're going to have to work real hard to convince me. I think vaccines are certain vaccines.
So you're saying let kids die? No. Where do you get that? I'm saying let kids. No. I'm saying we should know like the negatives of the vaccine, if it has any negatives, and then we should calculate that against the risk of getting COVID, because COVID doesn't kill you at a 100% rate. In fact, it affects kids less. It actually has like a stronger effect against older people, right? So if the risk of children is so small, what are the risks of the other things? Like, what are the risks of like getting the vaccine? What kind of side effects could it have? And then we calculate that against if it's worth it. If it's worth it to actually give them the vaccine, that's all I'm saying, right? It's not, yeah. And this is for every medication, by the way. People should be informed.
Are incredible, but maybe some aren't. And if they aren't, we have to find out. But when you talk about autism, because it was brought up, and you look at the amount we have today versus 20 or 25 years ago, it's pretty scary.
Well, again, scientists.
It was confirmed that kids had a 99.9997% resistance. There's no need for them to get the vaccine. Yeah, it was something like, I don't know if those numbers are exactly right, Zevian, but the risk to children was far less than it was for older adults. COVID mostly, lethality specifically of COVID was mostly towards older and compromised people. It was mostly old people, respiratorily compromised people, and fat people. It was mostly like who had the risk factor from COVID. Healthy children basically almost always survive.
Via diet and exercise would drive down healthcare costs.
Oh yeah, for sure, Sternage. And like, I can go into the thank you for the bit, Sternage. You know, you can go into like a whole rabbit hole about how the healthcare industry makes more money off of people being like sick for longer. Although preventative medicine is like how you prevent a lot of like these big diseases. But then you don't make money. Like, how do you make money off of this? Oh, you're a doctor. Oh, yeah, I have this problem. Like, I have diabetes or something. And you're like, oh, okay, well, go eat better. Right? Like, that doesn't make them more money. It makes them more money to be like, take this drug. Take this drug, come see me in 2 weeks. See me in 3 months. And then 3 months after that. And then 3 months after that. Take this drug. Take this test. Do this. They make more money off of that. Yeah, exactly what Smokey said. When you cure a patient, the customer's lost. They're not incentivized to make people healthy. Does that make sense?
Say that's because they've gotten better at identifying it, and there's no link in studies.
The drug companies are going to be working with RFK Jr. and he's been an interesting guy to me. I've watched him for 25.
Sorry, one last thing. I think it's pretty interesting how like a lot of like the forefront of a lot of like health stuff right now, it centers around like kind of like diet and like gut health and stuff like that now. So I feel like interested in that kind of stuff. That's kind of like the forefront of a lot of science.
And he's been an interesting guy.
Let's talk about Elon Musk, another interesting person.
He's very interesting.
Last month, one of your allies said, quote, he's behaving as if he's a co-president. Will you favor Elon Musk over other leaders of competitor companies like Jeff Bezos, Mary Barra?
No, Jeff Bezos called me. We're having dinner.
I gotta eat my vitamins,
by the way. As you know, Mark Zuckerberg came in. We had a really nice dinner. He asked to have dinner. I had dinner with him. I'm having dinner with everybody. People like me now. You know, it's something going on. I said, would you have come to dinner with me if I lost? I think the answer is no. You know, I said nicely, kiddingly.
That's like so fucking sad to think about. It's like, that's sad.
Of course, because I don't want to sound foolish. But I say jokingly, would you have been here at dinner if I lost? And the answer was probably not. Look, I'm getting called by everybody. It's very interesting. It's different than the first. You know, when I won the first time, I wasn't nearly as popular as this. And one thing that's very important in terms of the election, I love that I won the popular vote, and by a lot. If I didn't,
1.6%.
because they would go with the other one, they say, well, he didn't win the popular vote. He won a lot of, I won a lot of the Electoral College. But they would always preface it by saying, now they say he won the popular vote and he won the Electoral College and he won all 7 swing states.
Winning.
That was a great election.
Very quickly, because we're going to talk about the election coming up, but you've tapped Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, to head up this Department of Government Efficiency.
Correct.
Which proposes cuts to the federal government. I think a lot of people hear that and they get concerned about Medicare and Social Security and
not
Medicaid.
Not going to have anything to do.
And defense spending.
You
won't touch Medicare, Social Security?
Okay. No, I said to people, we're not touching Social Security, other than we might make it more efficient, but the people are going to get what they're getting.
Okay, so the entitlements
and
off the table.
And we're not raising ages or any of that stuff.
Okay, off the table.
I won't do it.
Okay, let's turn to foreign policy. Should Ukraine prepare for less aid from the United States after you're sworn into office?
Yeah, probably. Sure.
You've said you can end the war.
Should they prepare for less aid? Sure.
We're in for 350 billion, and Europe is in for 100 billion.
Holy
Why
shit.
isn't Europe in for the same as us? The one thing that should happen is that Europe should come in. They should equalize. And, Biden, all he had to do, like I did with NATO, I said, you got to pay your bills. They weren't paying their bills. And as you know, the Secretary General said, President Trump got 600 billion, now 640 to be exact. And I used to use the 400 billion number. He corrected me. He said, no, you actually got $641 billion put in because I said you have to pay your bills. We were paying for NATO. And you know why I got the money? Because I asked for it.
The most annoying one is the World Health Organization. That's the most fucked up one, where we pay so much money and then they basically suck off everyone else.
It wasn't that complicated.
Thanks for the follow,
Europe
Jeff.
Is in for a fraction. War with Russia is more important for Europe than it is for us. It's important for everybody, but it's more important for Europe than it is for us.
And you've said
we have a little thing called an ocean in between us.
You said you can end the war in 24 hours. You've even said you want to try to end it before you're sworn into office.
I'm trying to end it.
You're actively trying to?
I am.
Have you talked to President Putin?
No, I have not.
You haven't talked to President Putin since you've been elected?
No. Well, I don't want to say that, but I haven't spoken to him recently.
So you've spoken to President Putin since you've been elected?
I don't want to say that. I don't want to say anything about that because I don't want to do anything that could impede the negotiation.
But you
I want to stop
talked
it.
about
Let me tell you what I have talked
leaders.
about. Let me tell you. There are people being killed in that war at levels that nobody's ever seen before.
I'm gonna be real. I think she's doing better than I thought. The interviewer. I know she's a little bit hostile. They're all hostile, but I feel compared to other people that have done this, she's the least bad. I think. I know a lot of people are up in arms on social media about how she's a shit interviewer and stuff like that, but I actually think that she's actually giving him some space.
You have to go back to the Second World War, and even that, if you take a look at, and you know what it is? It's the soldiers largely. The cities have been emptied out and demolished. The country has been demolished. If I won that election, which you know how I feel about it, I won't get into it because we don't need to start that argument. I think it's an easy argument. It was really proven even more conclusively by the win that I had on this one. But
you did
had
I, sir.
Well, that's your opinion, but I disagree with it. Had I
That's just your opinion.
assumed, kept control, number one, Israel wouldn't have happened. Number two, Ukraine would have never happened. It would have never happened, Ukraine, Russia. But the number of people that are being killed, soldiers, young, beautiful soldiers, hundreds of...
It's actually really sad. If you've actually watched any of the combat footage out of Ukraine, it's terrible. It's really terrible. I don't even want to. It would be so terrible to be in the position that they're in. This is the first war that we've gotten really unprecedented in the amount of combat footage, and it's awful. And then just the drones and stuff, it's all so bad.
Thousands of people are being killed. And it's very interesting. It's level.
It's like watching a VOD of fucking Call of Duty, but then every single person that gets shot is an actual person dying.
Totally level. The battlefield's totally level. You know what's happening? Yeah. The only thing that stops a bullet, you know what it is a body, a human body. And the people that are being killed, hundreds of thousands on both sides. Russia's lost probably 500,000. Ukraine's lost higher than they say, probably 400,000. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of laying all over fields. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen, and it should have never been allowed to happen. Biden should have been able to stop it.
Sir, will the United States stay in NATO while you're in office?
In where?
NATO. Do you commit that the United States will remain a member of NATO while you're in office?
Again, they have to pay their bills. If they pay their bills, absolutely.
But not if they don't pay their bills.
But NATO's taken advantage of us because we were... Look, number one, they take advantage of us on trade, meaning the European European nations, okay, like terrible. They don't take our cars. They don't take our food products. They don't take anything. They think it's a disgrace. On top of that, we defend them. So it's a double whammy. So let me just tell you, I was able to get hundreds of billions of dollars put into NATO just by a tough attitude. I said to the countries, I'm not going to protect you unless you pay. And they started paying. And that amounted to more than $600 billion. That's a big thing. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be fighting. They wouldn't have any money to fight.
Can stop bullets other than bodies. Sandbags are commonly used at ranges and military encampments to stop.
Fucking Kappa. Damn it.
If they're paying their bills, and if I think they're treating us fairly, the answer is absolutely, I'd stay with NATO.
But if not, you would consider the possibility of
absolutely,
getting
yeah, absolutely.
It should be on the table. Leaving should be on the table. If like they don't want to actually they don't want to play ball and they want to make it unfair for us, then fuck them. Honestly, like I know this is a hot take, but like Americans should look after Americans first. And then if people want to cooperate, like we can work with them. But like this idea, America is just gonna like fucking bend the knee and be everyone's bitch and give everyone money. I fucking hate that idea. It's stupid.
Turn to the Middle East now, sir. There are still American hostages being held in Gaza.
Obviously, we should care about our own country. You said this week that
if the hostages aren't released before Inauguration Day, quote, there will be all hell to pay.
Correct.
What exactly did you mean? And do you still think that the hostages are alive?
We're not a fucking sugar daddy, all right? The world needs to fucking stop acting like that.
I'm not a big believer in the fact that there are too many of them living, sadly, because I've seen the way they've been treated.
They're like a wife that they're like a wife where like the husband gives them everything and then they go out and they fuck other guys and then they talk a bunch of shit about us. That's what it's like being America. It's like you're the husband taking care of the family, taking care of their wife, and then she's out there like fucking everybody else, and then she spits in your face and tells all the other guys how you're fucking terrible.
I talk about the young girl that was pulled by her hair violently and thrown into the back of a car like she was a sack of potatoes, and I said,
we should do what a good husband should do in that case and throw her ass out.
That's hatred. And then I said, how did that young girl do? Beautiful young girl just dragged by her hair. You remember, blood pouring all over her body. You can imagine the parents thrown into the back of a car by some horrible guy. I said, how is she? She's dead. She died, sir. I don't think you have as much.
The USA should be like the thanks, Zevian. The USA should be like the dad that goes to get them. No, not like that.
I mean, I hate to say it.
It's not the same.
I think you have far fewer hostages than people think. That's what I think. It's only my opinion, but okay. I've been right on just about everything.
Are you going to pressure Prime Minister Netanyahu, with whom you have a very good relationship, to end the war in Gaza?
Yeah.
And have you already started that process?
I want him to end it, but you got to have a victory. People forget about October 7th. That was as violent. And you know what's happening? I noticed that a lot of people are saying, oh, it never really happened. That's like the Holocaust. You know, you have Holocaust deniers. Now you have October 7th deniers, and it just happened. No, October 7th happened. And I've seen the pictures. What happened is horrible.
If China invades Taiwan on your watch, are you committed to defending Taiwan?
I never say.
Still won't say.
I never say because I have to negotiate things, right?
Can you just say if you'll defend it? I'm not saying if the U.S. military.
I'd prefer that they don't do it. I have a very good relationship with President Xi. We have been communicating with each other.
Since you were elected?
Yes.
And you sent that message?
Since like 3 days ago. Yes, we communicate.
And you sent that message to him, don't invade Taiwan?
We didn't talk about that. Okay. We talked about other things. But I have a very good relationship, and I hope he doesn't do it.
This week, a federal court upheld a law that could result in TikTok being banned. You said you're going to rescue TikTok when you get into office. Are you going to take steps to protect
TikTok president
Donald
Trump?
I used TikTok very successfully in my campaign. I have a man named TikTok Jack. He was very effective, obviously, because I won youth by 30%. All Republicans lose youth. I don't know why. Maybe it's changed.
You want to know why? It's because the conservatives are fucking a bunch of boomers and they're freaking boring. That's why they're boring. This is literally, okay, guys? It's like, this is what happened. You want to know what happened? This is what happened. The liberals, I don't mean strictly just the leftists, liberals in general, are really, they really love like controlling like the culture and the arts, and then and like, you know, mainstream culture, mainstream arts, movies, Hollywood, TV, video games, all of that shit, right? And then the right-wing people are like, we only do politics. Like, we're too cool for that, you know? Like, what? Who cares? Like, you know, we're serious business. And they just surrender like the entire culture. That's what happened for like the last couple of years. They don't want to engage in the culture because they're like, oh, I'm too good for that. That's how they act. They act like a bunch of freaking idiots. And then they're like, oh, what do you mean, everybody? What do you mean the media hates us all the time? What do you mean the movies like make fun of us all the time? What do you mean the movies and games they're all propaganda? What do you mean?
And
freaking
last
morons.
time we were down 30% with youth. This time we're up 35%
Please
with youth.
follow Jax.
And I use TikTok, so I can't really, I can't totally hate it. It was very effective. But I will say this. If you do that, something else is going to come along and take its place. And maybe that's not fair. What they're doing, and really what the judge actually said was that you can't have Chinese companies. In other words, they have the right to ban it if you can prove that Chinese companies own it. That's what the judge actually
said. So are you going to try to protect TikTok just very quick once you're in office?
I'm going to try and make it so that other companies don't become an even bigger monopoly.
Okay.
Because that's what happens.
We're winding down, and I know you have a plane to catch.
I do.
This is actually not bad.
This is your first interview since you won the election.
Congratulations.
Yes.
I hope
congratulations to you.
I hope you do well with it.
Yes.
Wait, why did he look to the side like that?
Right. As a European, it's confusing to watch how people gives you shit while also expect you to be world police.
Mm-hmm.
In Norway they are especially like that. US do that, US do this, but let me kick you in the balls while you do it. So
yeah, basically
stupid and disingenuous.
Yeah, I think we should be like allies, with Europe. Obviously, like we should be allies with more people. I think it's better to have allies than not. But then the thing is like it has to be kind of like an equal partnership. I don't mean equal in terms of like monetarily. Like obviously, like other countries are going to be smaller, other countries are going to be bigger. That's just how it is. I think it's more like everybody has to have skin in the game. If you don't have skin in the game, then you're not really a part of it, right? Anyway, why you look to the side like that?
I don't have to tell you this because you've talked about it. It comes at a time when the country is deeply divided, and now you're going to be leading this country for the next 4 years. Mm-hmm. For the sake of unifying this country, will you concede the...
No.
I hope you had a good stream.
Why would I do that? But let me just tell you, when you say the country...
This is the bravest raid of all time. Thank you for the bits, Remy. Thank you.
Is deeply divided. I'm not the president. Joe Biden's the president.
But you're going to be the president.
No. I'm not the president. So when you say it's deeply divided, I agree.
Yeah, I actually like it a lot since I actually like this interview. I know a lot of people, like I've heard so many people saying like, oh, like the host was like so terrible. Like I actually think it's like pretty decent. I mean, obviously the host was hostile. Like she has like, she's hostile towards him. But like, I feel like she kept it like at least somewhat reined in. Unlike a lot of the other ones I've seen. Yeah, they're just straight up worse. Yeah.
But Biden's the president, I'm not. And he has been a divider. And you know where he divided it more than anything else, and it probably backfired on him, I think definitely, is weaponization. When he weaponized the Justice Department and he went after his political opponent, me. He went after his political opponent violently because he knew he couldn't beat him. And I think it really was a bad thing. And it really divided our country.
Sir, Democrats have control of the White House now. They didn't.
Yeah, I agree with that.
2020. If they are going around stealing elections, why
when you say
didn't they
Democrats have control now
of the White House?
Yeah.
So why didn't they steal this election since they have more power now?
Because I think it was too big to rig.
Okay. So you won't...
It's too big to rig.
To the people who say that you're now directing your Justice Department to investigate 2020 and they want to move on.
I have very capable...
I
think Pam is going to be great.
Precious resources?
People were also a lot more sus this time. Like people were really fucking... There was a lot of news on it.
By the way,
is that what
a lot of people watching it?
Just so you know, I have the right to do that, but I'm not interested in that.
Oh, you're not? You're not going to do that?
I'm not interested. Okay. I have the absolute right. I'm the chief law enforcement officer. You do know that. I'm the president. But I'm not interested in that. You know what I'm interested in? Drilling and getting prices down and stopping people from pouring into our border that come from prisons and mental institutions.
Last two questions here.
Honestly, it's not bad. Like I know there's like a thirst for like trying to get back at like for all of the stuff that happened. I like that he's like, let's move on and let's fix problems. Like I like that a lot, honestly.
One of the things that made this campaign unprecedented and extraordinary were the horrific attempts against your life.
I've seen this a lot of times. I see a VTuber cover anything politically. I just watch videos and I comment on it. 2
assassination attempts. Yeah. Do you feel safe going into the White House for the next 4 years? Why?
I have confidence in Secret Service. I know the people. I got to know a lot of them, and I have confidence. It was a bad moment. Something shouldn't have happened, but I have a lot of confidence, and they've really stepped it up.
Cutesy time is over.
They were restricted from giving I do a rally, and you were at many of them, and I'd have 50,000 people. Joe would have a rally, and he'd have 30 people, and he had more Secret Service than me. My Secret Service was always asking for more manpower/women power. They were asking for more.
He added the woman power just in case.
Was always asking for more manpower/women power. They were asking for more and more and more, and they couldn't get it. I'm not blaming them really, because they were always fighting for more people.
So inclusive.
And they wouldn't get. Now, boy, do we have it.
I know it was hard on your entire family. Can people expect from the First Lady in this second administration? What role will she play? She obviously had her Be Best campaign.
She's very liked, loved, and she's very respected, and she's a very solid person, and she devotes a lot of time to helping children. You know what she does, and she's got her Be Best a deal that is.
You know what I didn't get? I didn't get everyone going after her. She seems like she was just like super nice to everybody, and yet like people were like really trying to like get her for shit.
Incredible what she's done.
Did she what did she do that like made everyone like so mad at her? She just seems like super sweet.
The one thing I said, whether it's First Lady or my children did
She's
such
an
a good
asshole.
job.
Like how is she an asshole?
And they were treated very badly by the press.
Thank you.
Ivanka was unbelievable what she did, and she all she wanted to do is one thing: get people jobs. She could have been the UN secretary. I said to her, she would have been unbelievable.
Because she gave Trump a hard time. I mean, she's his wife.
She's got the whole package for that, including right up there. She's as smart as she didn't want. She said, "Daddy, I want to work on getting people jobs." You know, she'd go to Walmart, she'd go to X such. She produced millions of jobs for people. Not glamorous. Most people didn't know she did it, and she was always being excoriated. And I said to my kids, Don't come in. Don't come in. It's just
you said to them, "Don't."
I said to them, yeah.
But will you miss having them there? Will it feel different? They were your top advisors.
I'll tell you what, I'll miss them, and they're really competent. But I say, just have fun, do your business, do whatever you want to do, but don't come in, because no matter what they did such a great job. Although I have to say, Lara did a phenomenal job as the head of the Republican National Committee, along with Michael.
What will the First Lady's role be, do you think? Will she continue her Be Best campaign?
She's a very elegant First Lady. She was a very successful woman.
She's very elegant.
In the modeling and other things, but in the modeling, very successful. The press, I can't say treated her unfairly. You know why? Because she's very popular. You would think if the press was unfair, like to me, the press was obviously unfair to me. The press, no president has ever gotten treated by the press like I was. And yet I got more votes than any Republican candidate in history. By far. It's not even close. So you say, what's that all about? The press has to straighten itself out, because honestly, it's lost all credibility. When that can happen, based on the press, I should have gotten no votes. And yet I got the highest number ever. And the reason is because I'm able to go on a show, even like yours, even though you're very hostile, I'm able to go on a show like yours. No, you are.
Well, hopefully you thought it was a fair interview. We covered a lot of policy ground.
Well, it's fair today. Only in that you allowed me to say what I say. But, the answers, the questions are, pretty nasty.
Thanks for the bits, Evian. Thank you.
Because I've seen you interview other people, and
I've never interviewed President Biden. Actually.
When I say you, I'm talking metaphorically. I've seen George Stephanopoulos interview Biden, and he's a tough interviewer. It's the softest interview. I've seen CNN interview him. They give these soft.
They went the fucking full game journalist mode on fucking Biden.
What's your favorite ice cream? It's a whole different deal. I don't understand why. You would think the press would like to see strong borders, great education, a powerful military, so we have a country left, and all these different things. And somehow they don't want to see that.
Let me ask you, hopefully you think this interview was fair. We spent a lot of time talking about your policy and your second administration. I want to ask you, sir, one final question. What do you want to say to Americans who didn't support you?
That's a good last question.
In this campaign.
Nice.
I'm going to treat you every bit as well as I have treated the greatest MAGA supporters. There's never been anything like MAGA in the history of this country. These people are so dedicated to making America great again. It's very simple. And I'm going to treat them just the same as I treat MAGA. We're going to treat everybody good. We want success for our country. We want safety for our country. Our country's under threat, as you know. Mm-hmm. We have a tremendous threat militarily because of the power of weapons and weaponry. It's a tremendous threat. Nobody talks about it, but it's tremendous threat.
Nukes are fucking scary nowadays.
I want to treat everybody the same. I want to treat them well. And at the end of this 4 years, I have a big head start because I was there for 4 years fairly recently. A lot of bad things were done during the 4 years that I wasn't there. And mostly in what they've done in terms of our reputation overseas, our reputation so bad, so shot. I got to bring it back, and I also have to bring back civilization to our country. Our country is a crime pot, and we have to get rid of crime. We have so many things to do. We have to do the prices. We have to do all of that. But we have to get the criminals out of our country. We have to bring down crime. People have to be able to walk across the street and buy a loaf of bread without being shot. And that's going to happen. But what I say to them is, I love you, and we're going to all work together, and we're going to bring it together. And
I love you too,
you know what's going to bring it together? Success. I saw that just prior to COVID coming in. I had polls that were the highest anyone. McLaughlin and Fabrizio said George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, if they came back from the dead and they ran as president and vice president, couldn't beat you, sir. We were doing so well, and I was getting along with the left. Let's call it the left. Would be nice. Okay, we're just going to call it. But I was getting along with people that you would consider liberal or progressive, as they like to say, at levels that I never thought was possible. And you know what it was? Success. Success was bringing the country together, and that's what I want to do.
We'll leave it there unless you'd like to say anything more.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the honor of this first interview.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching.
That was pretty good, honestly. There were a couple moments where like she did like kind of go hard on him, but then like it's kind of what I would expect anyway. I wanted her. I do appreciate that she did dig further into it. Overall, I honestly, I'm gonna take the not popular take here with like, you know, especially amongst conservatives. I think it was a good interview. I think it was very solid.